Hello, thank you for tuning in to another Fab in Fourth Mathematicians Vertical Learning session. Today our learning target is that we can compare and order fractions. A quick review from last week. We learned last week how to compare fractions, and we know that we are using greater than, less than, or equal to symbols to do that. Last week we looked at a fraction such as 1/8, and we compared that fraction to something like 1/4. We used graham crackers last week. Okay, today I'm going to show you how to just use a visual model to support your reasoning, okay, for both comparing and ordering fractions. We know that an eighth of a candy bar might look something like this. My denominator, my bottom of my fraction, is going to tell me the number of parts in the whole. Two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Even though I was pretty sure I did a double check, that is a really important step. Please make sure when you are modeling and drawing fractions, you double check that you really have the number of parts you think you have in your whole. I know that if I ate 1/8 of a candy bar, that means I have eaten 1 out of 8 pieces. This is my numerator. Okay, tells me the number of units I've eaten, 1/8. I'm now going to draw my candy bar. I'm going to try to make it that same size as best as I can. Again, I'm estimating. This time I know my denominator tells me that this candy bar is divided into fourths. I have eaten 1 out of 4. It is a unit fraction. If I were to now compare these two, what did I eat? What part of the whole, what unit out of the whole is greater? If I've eaten 1 out of 4, I can see that that piece, that unit out of the whole is greater. Eat the big one with my alligator mouth, right? I would read that as 1/8 is less than 1/4. Okay. The new part of our learning target today that we're moving on to is that we are ordering fractions. Okay. What I mean by that is, here's an example of what you all know how to do like a rock star. That would be to order larger numbers. Okay. Remember, we learned that they might give us the number 1,234, 2,134, 1,324, and they might say to you, write those from least to greatest. Okay. Well, I know I'm going to start by looking, do they all go out to the same greatest place value? This goes out to the thousands. Yep, they're all out to the thousands place. I'm going to now take a look, and I remember, if I have 2 sets of 1,000, I know that that is going to be my greatest number. My directions say least to greatest. So I could give myself 3 answer spaces because I know I'm working with 3 numbers. And I've already determined that this is 2,000. It's going to be way more than any number that has only a 1 in the thousands place. So I'm going to right away put that as my greatest value, and then I'm going to cross that out. So my brain knows, check, done. I'm now going to go through and begin comparing at the greatest place value because I have the same number of digits in these 2 standard numbers. A set of 1,000 compared to a set of 1,000 didn't tell us anything. Ooh, I noticed that this number has 2 hundreds and this number has 3 hundreds. A standard number with a 3 in the hundreds place would be more than a number that has a 2 in the hundreds place. So I know my next smallest number, followed by, of course, all that is left. Okay, so we just reviewed how to take whole numbers written in standard form and write them in order from least to greatest. I'm going to now practice that same process, but I'm going to work with fractions this time. know that I'm going to need more space. Here we go. Going to say that Mrs. Ziegler ate 1/7, excuse me, of a pie. Gonna say that Mr. Kirst, man, he was really hungry. He ate half of a pie. And actually, I'm gonna please switch these to candy bars. Mrs. Ziegler ate 1/7 of a candy bar. Mr. Kirst ate 1/2. And Miss Clark ate 1/3. I'm going to now draw some models to explain my reasoning. Some of you I know might remember from last week, we said, okay, the larger the denominator, right, the smaller the fraction. We can use that to help us order fractions, but a lot of times they ask us to explain our reasoning or our thoughts with a visual model. Okay, so let's do that. Based on this, we know, okay, that the largest denominator we have is a 7. So that is probably our least or our smallest fraction. Okay, so based on that, if I were to list, I'm going to say that 1/7 is the smallest fraction. I'm listing these from least to greatest. So my next biggest number in the denominator is 1/3. And then all that's left is 1/2. Now let's support that with a visual model. I switched my statement from a pie to a candy bar because it's kind of hard to divide a circle into sevenths. Okay. But now that I switched it, I'm going to draw my candy bar. Split it into sevenths as best as I can, equal parts. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I know I need 6 lines if I want 7 parts. And I'm going to shade in 1/7. Oops, sorry. Shade in 1/7. I'm going to label that as best as I can with my fat marker here. Draw same size candy bar. Helps to draw them on top of one another so you can really compare well. Whoa, 1/2. Mr. Kirst, that's how much he ate. He was hungry. 1/3, same size candy bar. This one is what Miss Clark ate. I need it into 3 groups. She ate 1/3. Using my visual model now, I'm going to write these fractions from least to greatest, and then I'll compare what I predicted based on our rule, okay? Least to greatest. Least means smallest. If you ate the least, you ate the smallest amount of something. My least, my smallest amount that was eaten by someone was up here. That was Mrs. Ziegler, I believe. 1/7. Then I'm going to help my brain by crossing it out. My next smallest, or my middle fraction, would be, let's see, I'm comparing. Oh, must be the 1/3 that Miss Clark ate. And then my greatest fraction of all, the largest amount that I colored in, the largest unit fraction or piece I colored in would be 1/2. Notice that when we used our rule, the larger the denominator, the smaller the fraction. Large denominator, we listed it as the smallest. Next largest was the next smallest. And then it's strange, but the smallest denominator, right? We have to think about the opposite. Smallest denominator was actually the greatest fraction. That's too much wording and confusing for your brain still. Our models supported the same thing. Least to greatest, 1/7, 1/3, 1/2. If you have questions about this, we have our small math groups on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm happy to explain if you want to ask, and I bet you when you ask a question, you will help others in our group. Or you can email me and I will get back to you right away with an answer to your question. Let's go to our assignment for today. You need your workbook, mathematicians. We're on page 258. If you need to go get your workbook and a pencil, you could pause this video at this time, come back, and then I will be ready for you to move on. Our directions state that we are going to write our unit fractions from least or smallest to greatest. I noticed that they gave us 3 fractions, just like we did in our mini lesson. Let's take a look at number 18 together. I am working with 1/6, 1/8, 1/5. I could train my brain and write that rule as notes to myself, right? Greatest, poor choice of words, sorry, change my mind. Large denominator equals small fraction. Right? So just by that rule, I'm going to right away just look over here and say, you know what? My largest denominator is an 1/8. That is the largest bottom number here. I know that is going to be my smallest unit fraction. I'm just going to list that right away. Now I get a little confused with these two. They're close together, so I'm going to draw my models to help me. Okay. I'm going to draw my candy bars. I made them the same length. Could be a little more precise, couldn't I? There we go. I'm going to divide my first one into 6ths. Divide my next one into 5ths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I ate 1/6 of my candy bar. Whoo! Look how close this is. This one's the 1/5. I'm going to need to shade these in very carefully. Wow. Now, if I don't look really carefully, I'm going to miss this. Okay? If I were to extend this line up very precisely, my 1/5 of the whole is just a little bit bigger than my 1/6. If you didn't make your bars as close to the same as you possibly could, in fact, I still don't like this one very much, you might have a little bit of a wrong result from your model, which is why we have rules like this to check our work, just in case our drawings are not accurate. But this 1/5 is just a little bigger, than my 1/6 or greater, which would mean my largest piece of all is the 1/5. If you were unsure, you could try to draw the 1/8. They're just a little bit hard to split up and I'm running out of room. Don't like how that's looking. I'm going to try to split my 1/8 here in the middle. If you weren't sure about how we did that 1/8, you could draw the model. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to shade in one of these 1/8. Look how teeny tiny it is. We know for certain then that 1/8 is the smallest, the least fraction, followed by the 1/6, followed by the 1/5. Does that support our rule? Let's see. Our largest denominator is the smallest fraction. Least means smallest. largest denominator, next largest, next largest. You could think of it as biggest, next biggest, next biggest, if that helps your brain, but we have done that correctly. As we get to needing to draw models for larger fractions like this, 1/11th, I would highly encourage you and suggest that you use, I would go back to my whiteboard to draw that, okay? Don't try to shove it in here. As you can see, I almost ran into a problem and needed to start over, and that's okay if you need to start over, but we want to do our best work. Give yourself space, either use a whiteboard if you have it at home or a scratch piece of paper. I'm going to set you up for number 19 and then stop there. Okay. I know from my rule, I betcha that 11th is going to be my smallest fraction. Okay, well, let's see. I'm going to draw 3 candy bars. Again, I suggest candy bars and not circles. It's hard to divide circles into equal parts. Made my candy bars nice and big because I know I have a large number in my denominator. My first one's going to be 1/11th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm going to eat one of those. My 1/4. Denominator tells me the number of parts in the whole. Numerator tells me how much I ate or what my unit is. I ate 1. And my 1/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to eat one of those. Okay, now we're going to have to be careful as we compare that 1/11th to the 1/8, kind of because I have a fat tip marker too, which makes it a little more challenging. But we would be able to then look and see which one is the least, remember, least to greatest, next largest to the greatest, and then list them on your line. Okay, here they are again if you need them. Mathematicians, you can now compare and order fractions. Okay, your assignment for Tuesday, April 7th is to finish number 19, try number 20, 21, 22, and Puzzled Penguin on your own. We will go over this during our math mini lessons. What voice will you give Puzzled Penguin at home, 4th graders? Thank you for being great listeners, working hard. I send love and hugs. Miss you all. See you soon. Just a quick note, if you need a page number on that assignment, 258. Okay. You're going to finish 19 through 23. See you all soon.